to this guy.
Hi. Boy, it is standing room only. This is great. Good for you. My name is Shannon Oborne. I don't know very many people here. I see a lot of unfamiliar faces, so I assume I'm unfamiliar to you as well. If you were expecting Shannon Osborne, I'm sorry to disappoint. But I hope that the story I have to tell is at least as exciting. Many of you, I think, are familiar with the concept of a makerspace, but it is a fairly new concept, and I know from a couple of months of talking with folks about this that often people do not know what that term means. It's just new to them. So I wanted to start just by kind of defining that, talk a little bit about kind of where I'm coming from and what I'm hoping to do, bringing together a group here in the community. A makerspace is basically a community workshop, and it brings together all sorts of different tools and educational programming, creative programming that kind of help explore the intersections of technology and design. It's funny listening to Chris talk and Darian. It's like I know we're talking about a lot of the same things, and that's good. It's like bringing these minds together and trying to kind of create some ways in the community to coalesce around that. Hopefully our makerspace will be a space that's big enough for this growing group, although 2 blocks from Broadway is a pretty tough requirement. It is. But in any event, the notion of a makerspace is very, very similar to a fitness club, actually, where people might choose to pay a monthly membership fee in order to have access to a lot of equipment and expertise that they wouldn't normally have access to in their homes, and also to have access to a community for either education or training or just fellowship or social gatherings. And so very similar concept here, except instead of elliptical equipment and fitness equipment, we've got wood shop, metal shop, 3D printing, welding. There's a whole list here, robotics and electronics, all under one roof, with the idea that you bring together these multidisciplinary people who have a lot of various interests and start to kind of develop a broad skill set, share ideas, help each other figure out how to create and innovate, and hopefully drive some collaboration. In a nutshell, that's what a makerspace is all about. We have a makerspace in the region, a really good, successful one, in fact, in Troy. It's called the Tech Valley Center of Gravity. And any familiarity with that makerspace? Excellent. Okay, great. So that's actually the model that I have had the most exposure to, and the one that inspired me to try to bring it here to Saratoga. So I do encourage folks there too to kind of check that out if you're interested in one that is already up and thriving. I'm a member of that makerspace. We have a very collaborative relationship, and intend to continue to do so as the concept comes into Saratoga. But at this point, this is an idea that really started to get legs at the end of December. So in January, I started to get kind of excited about the possibility of it actually becoming a reality. Spoke to Chris at the last meeting, and he gave me the opportunity to come up and spend a few minutes here, because obviously this group is a prime constituency for the makerspace in terms of either memberships or members or contributors or partners. It's meant to be an incredibly fluid social structure. So I guess that's my introduction to the concept, and the stage that I'm at now is having kind of floated it past just a very small number of people. I've been busy working with suppliers to try to manage the cost of bringing in all this equipment, and the numbers are starting to look good enough that I felt it was time to kind of raise the profile and introduce it to the community, and invite certainly any questions right now, but also invite you to reach out to me tonight or following up with my contact info, just to talk about it. If you're interested, if you want to participate, or if you want to share ideas, I'm hoping to hear from you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a request.
Yes.
The Vice Library had one for you just accepted donations from people, or old mobile devices for testing web design. I would pay to come to that. That would be awesome. You know what I'm talking about?
Do you mean like if you just do a web design and then you want to device it across all platforms?
I want to test apps. I want to test my website.
Sure.
I want to test features and building. Yeah.
Okay, so that's actually, no, that's great. That's great to hear, because that's the sort of need that we're hoping to kind of surface in this community and with these conversations. So, for example, that's not necessarily something that I have scoped. But part of this too is that, you know, a lot of the service and a lot of the value comes from the members themselves. So if you have that need, although this makerspace may not at the outset support it unless a lot of other folks describe that kind of need as well, I bet there's someone or a few people in the community who would be interested in, you know, helping you out with that.
Out of curiosity, who might be interested in okay.
Yes? All right. So that's what I'm hoping is that, you know, like maybe, in fact, perhaps next month, you know, if you're looking to, you know, fill your slate, you know, maybe between now and then, you know, we can start to get a real conversation going and define what those needs are. Okay, thanks. Is this ringing anybody's bells? Should I keep thinking that this is a great idea? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Does the one in Troy, do they have a lot of support or collaboration with RPI? Yeah, that's a big
It is absolutely. They are staffed by a lot of alumni from RPI. By staffed, they have a volunteer. It's an entirely volunteer organization, so they have volunteer staff, and then a lot of the membership comes from RPI as well. They don't actually have a formal institutional relationship with RPI, but I think that's kind of been an ongoing conversation. They are formally aligned with Hudson Valley Community College, and they're also significantly backed by Troy Economic Development, Rensselaer County IDA, and those groups as well. Yes.
Is anyone trying to get GE on board?
I think actually what's happening, I don't know, well, GE has actually their own innovation lab that they launched. It's not here locally. It's in, I want to say Lexington, Kentucky, or
Yeah, what was GE Appliance, and GE Appliance was bought out by a European appliance maker.
okay.
But we still have good GE design force down in Schenectady. I think it would be worthwhile trying to get some interest going.
That's a great idea.
I mean, GE's big interest is that makerspaces can prototype a lot faster than their own divisions can.
Yep.
So they have some other examples of how designers in that particular makerspace were able to bring to fruition ideas that they had in their own corporate meetings but weren't able to accomplish because of the timelines and budgets.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that they've gotten somebody, I mean, GE's already familiar with the concept. They should be willing to jump on board.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, I know down in the Schenectady area, aside from the makerspace that exists in Troy, I know there are also a few people who are thinking along the same lines. So, and I think they're frankly more than I are kind of tied into that community. But certainly, you know, it can be part of the, you know, the plan. And that's another interesting point too. Is, you know, the makerspace kind of, from what I've noticed, and I've been trying to study these the past year or so around the country, and a little bit in Europe, they kind of are reflective of their communities. So in Schenectady and in Troy, where you've got that heavy engineering community, it's very focused on the, you know, inventiveness, scientific discovery and invention and prototyping and patenting and that sort of a thing, and then ultimately product distribution. I don't know that we have that strong of a hardware, I guess would be the right word. I don't know if we have that strong of a hardware community here. Tell me if I'm wrong, because that's what I'm trying to, you know, figure out. You know, what should the model look like? You know, maybe we develop a cooperative discussion with those, you know, with those other entities. I think what we'll end up having here in the region is a network of cooperative makerspaces. So I think part of the goal now is to figure out here in Saratoga to create something that, you know, brings that in, but also attracts maybe non-technical people. A lot of design folks who have, you know, a strong design community here as well. We've got to try to figure out, you know, what's the right atmosphere and what's the right set of resources. Any other thoughts? Sure.
Curious how you merge like two distinct genres into one workspace. Like if you have woodworking and metalworking and metal arts, but then say up here in Saratoga you primarily have software development.
Mm-hmm.
You looking basically you're subdividing a larger space, part of it's offices and part of it's a workshop.
Yeah, it's going to definitely depend on the space. In most cases, it's like just one big, you know, like this, just one big raw space. And so, yes, you'd have like a clean, not really a clean room, clean tech, but, you know, clean area and a fairly quiet area with kind of a buffer zone in the middle so you can have meetings and things like that.
Because is that a concern? Is that, you know, you got people who will say want to focus primarily on design and development.
Right.
Being disturbed by someone working on metal.
Exactly, yeah. And it is noisy. It's incredibly noisy in this big.
Does welding and metal arts include plastic?
It can if somebody's interested in, yes. Absolutely.
I'll bring my own envelope.
Okay, thank you. And that's the spirit, you know. I mean, this is something that is incredibly collaborative. I'm trying so far by myself, but not for long. You know, it's definitely not something I can do by myself. So, you know, we've got to get some traction on it, but trying to get some of that equipment in place. But it is definitely going to take, you know, as you say, you know, bring your own or pitch in and share. This is a bit, I can't believe I haven't even said that word yet. A huge part of this is about, you know, the sharing economy and trying to get people in that mindset of sharing their resources and collaborating and understanding that, you know, it's not necessarily about ownership, but about access and the value that you get from that. We good?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Great.